The world's premier endurance race has released their entry list, and my, is it something to behold. What's happening, family? Grab a seat. Come on inside the Scrutineering room. I'm David. Let's break down the Le Mans 24-hour entry list. For those of you guys who are not aware, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is the biggest endurance race in the world, organized by the Automobile Club de l'Ouest. While we were all waiting for the Daytona 500 to kick off from its postponement on Monday, the ACO released the entry list for the 92nd running of the race taking place this June. For those who are not in the know, the 24 Hours of Le Mans will have three classes. They are Hypercar, LMP2, and LMGT3. So the field is split between these three classes, 62 cars. And then, for those of you guys who are not familiar with this, sometimes cars are withdrawn, they're not able to take part, and there is a list of reserves. This year there are 7 of them, and we'll get to that reserve list a little bit more, or at least we'll get to the nitpick pieces of it. But let's start with the premier class, Hypercar, or Le Mans Hypercar, if you will. The biggest class car count for the premier class in the Le Mans 24 hours in 25 years. 23 cars amongst 9 manufacturers. And it is a treasure trove. I'm talking about the Battle of Manufacturers is alive, well, and stronger than ever. So let's go into this. Let's break this down. Let's start with the reigning champions, Ferrari. 3 499Ps, 2 from the factory team ran by AF Corsa, and then there is the third. AF Corsa has their name on it, but this is the privately owned, or the privately ran 499P. Grand Prix winner Robert Kubica, Ferrari Driver Academy stalwart Robert Schwartzman, and Yifei Yi of China in that third number 83 Ferrari. Behind Ferrari, their runners-up from last year and also the series champions from 23 Toyota. They have 2 of their GRO 10 hypercars ready to go. Numbers 7 and 8 looking to regain their Le Mans crown, which they lost from a year ago. Finishing third last year at Le Mans was Cadillac. They're back. They have their trio of Cadillac B-Series LMDH hypercars ready to go. Chip Ganassi Racing will have 2. The second one, of course, is one of those invited entries. The third one will come from Action Express, better known as Whelen Cadillac Racing. They won through automatic invite by virtue of winning the IMSA WeatherTech Championship last season. Joining the hypercar battle this year, 4 brand new brands. 2 cars apiece for BMW, back in the premier class for the first time since 1999 when they won the race outright. You have Lamborghini making their biggest effort at Le Mans yet. 2 premier class hypercar entries in their SC63. And Alpine back in the premier class. 2 of those A424 LMDH hypercars. Of course, one of those will carry Mick Schumacher, the biggest name on that driving strength. However, nothing sees that with this group. The last of the new boys on the block, Isotta Fraschini. 1 car, the number 11 machine for this brand new, built just for Le Mans hypercar. If you like this car and want to see it in America, I got bad news. I don't think you will see this car in IMSA, but they do have 1 car that will make its debut at Le Mans this summer. They are scheduled and have entered for the World Endurance Championship. When we will see that car, not 100% certain. Not sure if that car will make it to Qatar. I believe they are on the entry list though. So can't wait to see that car take to the grid. Two big names in the French Classic will round out our manufacturer list. Peugeot has 2 of their 9X8s back for a second trip of the 24-hour Classic. However, this 9X8 will be the Evo, which, if you are not familiar and haven't been keeping up, will have a wing on the back. Of course, when the car debuted in 2022, it was well known for not having a wing underneath it, but this, on the back at least, but this time there will be a wing that is set to have the 9X8 Evo at Le Mans this June. And I saved these guys for last because they are the most represented brand. Just like a throwback to the 80s, Porsche has the field on lock. Literally 1/4 of the class. 6 Porsche 963s will assault the Le Mans 24 hours this year. Starting with the factory team, Roger Penske will have 3 963s looking to claim his first Le Mans victory. Literally, Roger's last big mountain to climb and tame. Like we said, 3 Porsche 963s. 1 comes over from IMSA to join the 2 full season World Endurance Championship entries. Yota Sport, the British privateer, has 2 963s for those who are not familiar. Hertz Rental Car and Tom Brady are big backers of this team. And last but not least, Proton Competition, who you may remember from my last video, have 1 963 entered, but I'm not done talking about that team or Proton and Hypercar just yet. Keep listening, I got a little more for you. Next up, the LMP2 category. 16 cars will make up this category. It is the smallest of the 3, surprisingly enough. However, it is still no shortage of excitement, especially with how far the LMP2 class has come. First things first, you're going to be seeing a spec competition in this one. All 16 LMP2s are the Oreca 07 chassis, but there is still a lot to read in between the numbers. There is a class within a class in LMP2, what is known as the Pro-Am Cup. There are 6 cars entered in that one out of the 16. And who are the teams to look out for in LMP2? I got 5 of them to take a look at. Number 1, United Autosports. This is the team that Pato O'Ward drove for in the Rolex 24 last month. United Autosports has 2 Orecas going over. One comes from IMSA WeatherTech, from the IMSA WeatherTech Championship. The other will come from the European Le Mans Series, where United Autosports also competes, and Asian Le Mans as well. I'll keep that in the loop. But they actually have the IMSA cards designated as United Autosports USA, and then you also have United Autosports, which is under its traditional British banner. Enter Europol, the Polish team that actually won the class at Le Mans last year. They're back with 1 Oreca. Another big team to look out for is the Portuguese-based Algarve Pro Racing. They have 2 cars. One is headed by CrowdStrike, and of course that includes CrowdStrike owner and CEO George Kurtz and Colin Braun, former Rolex 24 champion, former NASCAR driver. He will be partnering Kurtz in that second Algarve Pro Racing machine. A little bit more American flavor. AO Racing. Looks like Spike's going across the pond. They'll be partnering with TF Sport. And if that name sounds familiar to sports car fans, that's the team that will be running the Corvette GT3s at Le Mans. A little bit more on them in a second. But they will be partnering with TF Sport. AO Racing will enter an Oreca in LMP2. And the Swiss Cool Racing team, which has been very big over in the European Le Mans Series, they will enter 2 cars apiece. Last but not least, LMGT3, for the first time in the 24-hour history, the GT3 class, which of course was Stefan Rattel's brainchild, has made its way to Le Mans in the LMGT3 banner. Of course, the cars have competed at Le Mans on the Le Mans weekend in the Le Mans Cup, but this is the first time the GT3 class will be racing in the 24 hours itself. So, and they have quite the banner grid for the debut year of the GT3 class in the 24 hour. 23 cars, yes, Hypercar and GT3 equal size. It's going to be fun watching those three classes interact, mix and mingle with each other at Circuit de la Sarthe in June. 23 entries. In addition to the 18 full season entries, there are 5 additional entries that will come along for the race. McLaren will get a third entry by courtesy of an invitation for Inception Racing, the British-based team that races McLarens in the IMSA WeatherTech series. They will enter a McLaren. American Brandon Uribe will be on the driver's strength there. And before I go too forward, I do want to make sure you guys are aware, GT3 is the true Pro-Am class of the 24 hours of Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship this year. Each car in LMGT3 has to have one bronze-rated nominated driver in their three driver lineup. And if you're wondering what the bronze rating is, excuse me, I will save that for another episode. Again, stay tuned. But back to the list. Corvette fans, I mentioned TF Sport, the British-based team. They will be entering their 2 Corvettes to see if they can keep Corvette's winning streak and tradition going at Le Mans in GT racing. Joining AF Corsa as Ferrari's factory team in the World Endurance Championship, 3 additional Ferraris will be joining the fray at Le Mans. All of them race in the European Le Mans series, which is the sister series to IMSA and the Asian series. Of course, we have the 3 regional series in addition to the World Endurance Championship. JMW Motorsports, GR Racing, and Spirit of Race will be entering Ferrari 296 GT3s in addition to the 2 from AF Corsa. And rounding out the additional entry list is Proton Competition, which will be entering a 3rd Ford Mustang. Team owner Christian Reuth of Germany will be their bronze rated driver in that car. So that kind of is the lay of the land for this Le Mans 24 hour. However, 2 things to note. Proton Competition AF Corsa will be the busiest teams when it comes to Le Mans weekend. They will be the only 2 teams that will have entries in all 3 classes. Proton, in addition to their 3 GT3 Ford Mustangs, will also enter a LMP2 Oreca, and they have 1 Porsche 963, which we mentioned at the start of the video, and they may not be done yet. As for AF Corsa, they have 6 cars, and that's just kind of the ones with their names on the entry list. They have 2 in GT3 with the Ferraris. They also, in addition to their 3 499P Ferrari hypercars, will also have an LMP2 entered Oreca chassis. Whew. I don't know where Proton and AF Corsa get the resources from. They might as well just be Penske in hypercar. I mean, these 2 teams literally take up 1/6 of the Le Mans grid. Is absolutely uncanny. And where they're getting the resources or taking the partnerships from, I'm flabbergasted. But I will say this, I wish both Proton and AF Corsa all the best. AF Corsa, of course, fresh off winning the race last year, so I think they may be doing something right. But that's still a lot of resources to put towards this one race alone. Last but not least, let's talk about the reserve list. As I mentioned earlier, if one of the original 62 withdraws or is unable to compete, and if they do withdraw in a considerable amount of time, I should say, the ACO will go to this list of reserves and they will call up teams to compete in the race. And right off the list is a hypercar, a second Porsche 963 for Proton competition. Jimmy Bruni of Italy, longtime Porsche stalwart, is listed as the driver on that car, and they are first on the list. So if one car, regardless of which one, decides they're withdrawing from the race, that means Proton will be the first in. Second on that list is a second Orica for Inter-Europol competition, the reigning P2 champions. Third on the list is a third Aston Martin representing a team that will be known as the Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And no, they're not French, they're actually a Swiss-based team. Go figure. Also on the list, two Ferraris. TDS Racing, a giant stalwart in LMP2 racing. They're in the European Le Mans Series. They have an Orica on the reserve list with backing from Richard Mille, a huge French watchmaker. And they are probably one of the biggest names and sponsors when it comes to the European sports car scene. So if that team has backing from them, that means they're really serious about the main game. And last but not least, there is one American team on the entry list, but they are at the very bottom. It is Stay Sail Motorsports. They are in the LMP2 class, and they also have an Orica on hand. However, they are literally the least likely to make it because it's very rare we get 7 entries pull out on the verge of the Le Mans 24 hours. Lately, we really haven't seen any teams pull out on the verge of Le Mans. But oh my goodness, what a entry list. From the full field of 62 to the 7 reserves, it is absolutely mind-boggling. I've heard this before, and I will repeat it myself. The golden age of sports car racing is back. Never, well, I won't say never, but it's been a long time since we've seen this many manufacturers putting their best foot forward for the Le Mans 24 hours. And not just this, but the World Endurance Championship, because most of these cars, again, the 37 teams that will be in the World Endurance Championship automatically qualify for Le Mans. Cadillac getting 2 additional entries. That's going to be a very big boost for their hopes, especially when you got the likes of Ferrari and Toyota back. Porsche trying to up their hand, looking like the 80s when they had the 962. The 963 is doing the same. Huge customer contingent for them with 6 cars on the grid. But again, it's just the list. BMW back in the top class. You got Alpine back in the top class. I think this is the first time ever we've seen Lamborghini in the top class at Le Mans. It just shows just how far Lamborghini's come, because I remember someone saying Lamborghini was becoming a meme at Le Mans because they were just running so poorly, especially when they were running those Murcielagos in GT1. Those things were just unreliable and just couldn't, and for the life of the brand, just couldn't make the end of the race to save it. But definitely a lot to look forward to with this with this 92nd Le Mans 24 Hours coming up in June. I don't know about you all, but I literally wish Le Mans was tomorrow. I cannot wait to see this race play out in all its beautiful glory. It's one of the best races in the world, and if you don't take my word for it, I hope you guys get a chance to go for yourself. And if you don't take, and again, if you don't take my word for it, there's plenty of people on YouTube that would definitely agree with me on that. So with that being said, that concludes this video. Like we said, it was a little bit overshadowed considering the Daytona 500 had gotten pushed back. But what do you guys think of this massive entry list? Where does this rank with Le Mans as far as what you've seen in the past? Are you guys looking forward to the drivers? Oh, and real quick, in addition to the entry list, Chip Ganassi confirmed Alex Palou and Scott Dixon will be making the trek to Le Mans. Dixon will join the IMSA team of Ringer Vendizan and Sebastian Bourdais. Palou will team up with the World Endurance Championship team of Alex Lynn and Earl Bamber in their number 2 in the Blue Machine. But what has you most excited about Le Mans? Is it the cars? Is it the drivers? Is it the fact that the race takes place on public roads? Is it because of the short night? Drop a comment. Let me know. What do you think about this Le Mans entry list? Drop a comment. Like this video. Subscribe. We got plenty more coming for you guys. And boy, it's going to be a lot of fun to put this on for you. Thanks for coming inside the Scrutineering room. I'm David. I will see you next time on the next video. And until then, keep a smile on your face. You look much better when you have it. Take care. So long, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.